My wife died on that highway outside Calgary, and I walked away. 2 years later, the truck driver called me from prison and said, "Sir, I need to tell you who paid me." The name he said was someone who sat at our dinner table and ate our food. I have spent 31 years studying why roads fail. The grade is wrong. The drainage is inadequate. The sight line does not account for the curve. There is always a reason. There is always something that should have been caught earlier. I have written that sentence in more reports than I can count. What I was not prepared for was the day I would have to apply that same thinking to my own life and trace every broken thing back to a dinner table 11 years ago, and one moment when my wife told the truth to a room full of people who needed to hear it. My name is Gerald Ashworth, and I spent 31 years as a highway infrastructure engineer for the province of Alberta. I understand road grades and load tolerances and sightline calculations the way other men understand hockey statistics. Walk past me on a Tuesday morning in my front yard in the Brentwood neighborhood of Calgary in my old Carhartt jacket, and the reading glasses I keep losing and finding on top of my own head, and you would not guess any of that. You would probably ask me if I had seen your cat. I have not. I do not know where your cat is, but I could tell you the precise curvature radius of every on-ramp on the Trans-Canada within 40 kilometers of this city. That skill has never once come up at a dinner party, and I have made my peace with that. Drop your location? I'd love to know where you're watching from. My wife Elaine was 47 years old. She taught grade 4 at Ranchlands Elementary for 19 years, and she had the specific kind of patience that comes from spending your days with 9-year-olds. The kind that looks like calm, but is actually just very well-organized stubbornness. She had a laugh that arrived before she did in any room. She made the same grocery list every single week and still forgot 2 things every single time, and when I pointed this out once, she looked at me and said, "Gerald, I forget them on purpose, so I have a reason to go back." I did not know if that was true. I chose to believe it was because it was more interesting than the alternative. We were married 22 years. I was 34 when we married, and I want that on record because I spent a long time afterward feeling like I had not been given nearly enough of the time I was supposed to have with her. On the 14th of March 2 years ago, we were driving back from Canmore on the Trans-Canada. Sunday evening. Elaine had been at her friend Patricia's daughter's baby shower, and I had driven out to pick her up, because she did not like that stretch of highway after dark, and I never minded it. It was 8:40 in the evening. The road was dry. I remember checking the way I always check. Automatically, professionally, without thinking about it. The road was dry, and visibility was good, and there was no reason for anything to go wrong. And then a transport truck traveling eastbound drifted across the center line without any warning, and hit us on Elaine's side of the car. I woke up in Foothills Medical Center with a fractured collarbone, 4 broken ribs, and a laceration above my left eye that required 11 stitches. Elaine did not wake up. The investigation concluded the driver had fallen asleep at the wheel. His name was Dale Ostrowski. His logbooks showed violations. His hours were irregular. Criminal negligence causing death. 4-year sentence. I did not contest it. I did not have the energy to contest anything. I had a funeral to plan, and a house that still smelled like her shampoo, and a classroom full of 9-year-olds who drew me pictures I could not bring myself to look at for 6 months. Their teacher had taught them that when someone is sad, you make them something. She had taught them well. I kept every single drawing in a box in the closet, and I still have not decided what to do with them. I kept working. Consulting mostly. You do not walk away from 31 years of knowing how roads are built just because your life has come apart. I kept the house. I tried to keep her vegetable garden alive in the backyard. Badly. My neighbor Dennis, who is 73 and has opinions about everything including weather patterns and my parking and the structural integrity of my fence, told me my tomatoes looked depressed. He offered to help. I said I was fine. He helped anyway. That is Dennis. The call came on a Thursday morning in November. I was at the kitchen table with coffee going cold beside me, reading a drainage report. The morning news on the television in the other room, talking to nobody in particular. The call display said Bowden Institution. I almost did not answer. I assumed it was a wrong number. I picked up on the 4th ring. "Sir," the voice said, "is this Gerald Ashworth, the husband of Elaine Ashworth?" I said it was. "My name is Dale Ostrowski," he said. "I was driving the truck that hit your car on the Trans-Canada. I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear all of it before you hang up." I should have hung up. Every reasonable part of me knew I should hang up. I did not. I pushed the coffee aside and leaned back in my chair, and I said, "Go ahead." What he told me took 11 minutes. I know because I checked the call log afterward. He said that in the weeks before the accident, a man had approached him at a truck stop outside Red Deer. The man knew about his finances, a gambling debt of just under $19,000 owed to people who were not patient. The man offered him $45,000 in cash to run a specific vehicle off the Trans-Canada on a specific night at a specific kilometer marker. He was given the make and color of our car and a time window. He told himself it would just be a collision, that people walk away from collisions, that he needed the money more than he needed his conscience. He said he had been wrong about every part of that. He said he had thought about Elaine every single day for 2 years, and he could not carry it into a parole hearing and stand in front of a board and call himself a changed man. He said he was sorry. He said it the way people say it when they know the word does not come close to what is needed, but it is the only one they have. I asked him one question. I said, what was the name? He said, Vincent Carreau. I did not stand up. I did not say anything. I felt the phone still in my hand, and I was aware of the television in the other room and Dennis visible through the kitchen window sweeping his driveway in his green jacket the way he does every Thursday morning, and all of it felt very far away. I slid off the chair and sat down on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet, and I stayed there. I do not know for how long. Long enough for the news program to end and something else to start. Long enough for the coffee on the table above me to go completely cold. I just sat there on the floor of my own kitchen and stared at the cabinet across from me and thought about a Christmas dinner 7 years ago, and a man who had sat at my table and eaten my wife's roast chicken and asked for seconds. Vincent Carreau was Elaine's cousin on her mother's side. 49 years old. Commercial real estate in Edmonton. He had been at our wedding. He had told me my wine selection was not bad for an engineer, and I had laughed and refilled his glass. I asked Dale how he was certain it was Vincent specifically. He said Vincent had used a false name for the arrangement, but Dale had followed him afterward. Got his license plate. Sat on it for 2 years. Finally written it all down when he realized he could not move forward carrying it. I called Roy Betteridge 8 minutes after I got off the phone. Roy and I have been friends since 1997. We met on a job site outside Lethbridge when he was a junior surveyor and I was new on a bridge expansion crew, and we have had the same argument about the Calgary Flames approximately 400 times since then, and neither of us has ever changed the other's mind about anything. He answered on the second ring. He always answers on the second ring. I said, Roy, I need you to come over. He said, Gerald, it is 10:15 on a Thursday morning. What is going on? I said, something has happened with the accident. Silence. Then he said, I am getting my coat right now. He was at my door in 24 minutes. He came in and sat across from me at the kitchen table, and I told him everything from the beginning. He did not interrupt once. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. He picked up his coffee cup, realized it was empty, and put it back down. Then he said, Vincent Carreau, the one who ate your chicken and had opinions about your wine. I said yes. Roy looked at the table for a moment. Then he said some things I will not repeat here. They were accurate and they were said with genuine feeling, and I appreciated every word. Then he looked up and said, you need a lawyer today. Not this week. Today. I already had a name. Catherine Brody had handled Elaine's estate the year before. Sharp, experienced, the kind of woman who schedules everything and apologizes for nothing. I called her office at 11:20. Her assistant put me through within 10 minutes. Catherine Brody had been practicing criminal law in Calgary for 26 years. She had a voice like someone who had heard every possible version of every possible story, and retained the ability to be surprised by none of them while still giving yours her complete attention. She asked me to come in that afternoon. I brought the call log, a written summary of everything Dale had said and the specific kilometer marker and time window he had provided. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, okay. Then she said, what you have is a starting point, not a case. We need the call recorded and formally verified. We need financial evidence connecting Vincent to the payment. We need Dale willing to testify. She looked at me steadily. Is he willing to testify? I said I believed he was. She said, then we have work to do. It was 3 weeks into the investigation that I learned the reason. Not from Catherine, not from Dale, from a woman named Margaret Halley, Elaine's second cousin, who called me on a Tuesday evening and said she had seen Vincent's name in the news, and she needed me to understand that what happened did not come from nowhere and she could not stay quiet about it. She told me about a family dinner 11 years earlier at Elaine's aunt's house in Red Deer. 40 people, maybe more. The kind of loud, extended family evening that goes on too long and always ends with someone saying something they cannot take back. Vincent had been struggling financially for over a year at that point. bad investments in commercial properties in a market that had turned against him. He owed money to two members of the family who were present at that dinner. He had been telling everyone for months that the situation was temporary, that he had it handled, that it was a minor setback on the way to something larger. Elaine had known the truth. Vincent's own mother had told her in confidence 2 months earlier, worried and not sure who else to tell. And that evening, after Vincent made one comment too many about his upcoming deals and his future plans, Elaine set down her fork and looked at him across the table and said in a completely level voice, "Vincent, I think the people in this room should know that the Milrees property sold at a loss of $230,000 in September, and the Douglasdale project has been in receivership since August." The table went silent. Margaret said Elaine had not raised her voice. She had not been cruel about it. She had simply stated two facts in a room where those facts needed to be stated. But the effect was complete and immediate. Vincent's carefully maintained version of himself came apart in front of his entire extended family in about 30 seconds. The two cousins he owed money to were sitting 4 seats away. His mother looked like she wanted to disappear. He did not speak for the remainder of the evening. He left before dessert without saying goodbye to anyone. He never came back to a family event after that. He cut contact with most of the family over the following 2 years. He became, in Margaret's words, someone she did not recognize anymore. Cold in a way he had not been before. She said she had not connected any of it to the highway until she heard his name on the news, and then it settled into place with the specific weight of something that makes terrible sense the moment you understand it. I sat with that information for a long time. I am still sitting with it. Elaine had told the truth at a dinner table because she was constitutionally incapable of letting a comfortable lie stand in a room full of people who deserved better. That was not cruelty. That was exactly who she was. And a man had spent 11 years turning that moment into something that eventually put her in the ground. I have thought about that more times than I can count, and I have not found a way to make it feel like anything other than what it is. The evidence came together over the following 3 months. Traffic camera data confirmed the truck moving normally until the exact kilometer marker Dale had named. Financial records showed Vincent had withdrawn $46,000 in 2 installments in January and February of that year, 11 weeks before the accident. A counter worker at the Red Deer truck stop identified both men from photographs separately and without any prompting. And then there was the camera that finished it. A provincial traffic monitoring unit on an infrastructure pole 112 meters from the truck stop entrance. Part of a road safety initiative I had actually contributed to years earlier and had not thought about since. It had captured both vehicles within the same 40-minute window. The timestamps matched Dale's account within 8 minutes. There was no innocent explanation for what the footage showed, and Vincent's legal team did not attempt to manufacture one. Catherine arranged a meeting she described as a discussion of potential resolutions. I asked to attend. She said it was not standard practice. I said I understood that. She studied me for a moment and said, "You will sit in the corner and you will not speak regardless of what is said in that room." I said I understood that too. Vincent arrived with his lawyer and 2 associates, and he was composed and well-dressed, and he carried himself like a man who had not yet accepted that the situation was beyond managing. He did not acknowledge me when he came in. I sat in the chair by the window and I watched him settle into his seat and arrange his jacket, and I said nothing. Catherine turned the laptop around and pressed play without any introduction. He watched the footage. His lawyer leaned over once and said something quietly, and Vincent did not respond. He watched it to the end. The room was completely silent when it finished. He sat without moving for a long moment, and then he turned and looked directly at me for the first time since walking in. I did not look away. I had promised Catherine I would not speak, and I kept that promise. I did not need to speak. I just looked at him the way you look at someone when every word that could ever exist between you has already been used up. He held my gaze for about 5 seconds. I watched something move across his face that I do not have a clean word for. Not remorse exactly, more like the specific expression of a man who has just understood that the version of events he had been living inside for 11 years has finally run out of room. Then he looked back down at the table, and that was the last time he looked at me. He entered a plea 2 weeks later. Criminal conspiracy and criminal negligence causing death. 9 years federal with parole eligibility in 6. His real estate license was revoked within 30 days. His business partnership dissolved in 3 weeks. He has made no attempt to contact me. I do not expect he ever will. Elaine's will contained a clause that excluded any beneficiary convicted of a criminal act against her or her immediate family from receiving any portion of her estate. Vincent had apparently believed that if both of us died on that highway, he would benefit through the family bloodline. He had been wrong about that along with everything else. Roy came over the evening of the sentencing. He brought a bottle of scotch, 2 glasses, and nothing else. We sat in the living room with the television on low, some game neither of us was tracking. After a while he said, "How are you actually doing, Gerald?" I thought about it carefully before I answered. I said, "I am glad he is in a cell. I am glad Dale made that call. I am glad Catherine did what she did." Then I said, "But Roy, I still reach for her side of the bed every morning. Every single morning without exception. And no verdict in any courtroom changes that. Nothing changes that." Roy nodded slowly. He did not say anything, and I was grateful for that. Some things do not need improving. After a while he said she would have had something extremely sharp to say about all of this. I said, "I know exactly what she would have said. She would have looked at me over her coffee and said, 'Gerald, I told you at that Christmas dinner I did not like him, and you told me I was being ungenerous.'" Roy laughed. A real one. The kind that moved through the whole room. I said, and I would have had to sit there and admit she was completely right. She was always right. She just chose her moments carefully so it would land at the worst possible time for me. We stayed there a while longer. The scotch was good. The game ended without us noticing. Outside, Dennis's porch light came on and I watched it through the window, and I thought about Elaine in that garden every June with her sun hat sitting slightly wrong on her head, talking to the tomatoes the way she talked to everything she cared about. Patient. Specific. Completely unwilling to give up on something just because it was being difficult. The money is in an account I have not touched. I will figure out what to do with it eventually. That was never what any of this was about. I got justice for Elaine Ashworth. I just did not get her back. And some mornings that is the only thought I have room for. Dennis waved at me through the window this morning while I was standing at the sink. I waved back, made the coffee, reached for her mug by pure habit because it is right where she always left it. Put it back, used my own, went outside to check on the tomatoes. They are doing better this year. She would have had something to say about that too.